Before I get started, I just want to give the TX Studio a huge shout out. I'm so thankful. I feel pretty honored to be able to share this with all of you through their platform. So thank you, Augustina, for all of your help, and Doug and Kelsey for opening up this platform for creators. It's been really cool to follow along, and now I get to be one of those people, and I'm just so happy about it. So thank you. Okay, I think I'm going to go ahead and just start, if that's okay. So my name is Meagan Devon. I spent 12 years in the beauty industry, beauty and entertainment. So I did makeup and hair for just about anything you could imagine. Films, television shows, music videos, brand photo shoots, commercials. Did I say that yet? Conferences, so speaking engagements. Literally, if you can dream it, I think I did it. And that was a very colorful part of my life, something that I still take part in today. But about 3 years ago, I kind of dipped my toe into the music industry and event production. And with that came on a whole new world of adventure. So I really started filling the role of creative director, which felt very natural to me. My collected experiences through the beauty and entertainment world really have helped kind of push me and guide me into that direction. So it felt pretty seamless for me. I'm going to go ahead and screen share with y'all so that you can see. I put together a keynote, which is very like buttoned up and professional of me. So let me see if I can do this. It's going to get crazy for a second. Getting crazy. Okay. All right. Okay. All right, so let me click through this. Gave you a little bit of my background. Who is she? So as I said, my collected perspective over these 12 years have given me a really unique look into different areas of creative direction and building creative concepts. I have gotten to have conversations with directors and writers and producers. I've talked with brand representatives. I've talked with the actual brands themselves, photographers, and then I've also talked to talent, so the musicians, the models, the actors. So I've really had a quite unique kind of fly on the wall experience through beauty and production, which has led me to where I am now in the music industry and where I'm able to apply that perspective. So before we get too far into this, I want to address what creative direction is and kind of what that job entails. Creative direction is a learned set of skills through experience that shape the look and feel of a campaign, brand, or event, resolving a need or a goal. So 3 years ago, I started a music event with my husband, Bryson. It's called Loft Stories, and it started as a passion project, and now it has turned into many more opportunities, which has been wonderful because we're passionate about it, obviously. But as a brand and as a brand that hosts events, each show is sort of a new campaign for us. So every time we have an event, every time we have a show, we have a new goal. We have more people to reach. And so we have to create a feeling, we have to create a concept that's going to invite people into what we're creating and what we want to share with them, and make sure that that seamlessly transitions into the live event. A big part of my job as creative director is pre-production. There should be no big decisions or hardly any decisions on the day. I should not be making judgment calls the day of the show. I shouldn't be making any tweaks to the concepts on the day of the photo shoot. There are so many aspects other aspects to worry about on the day, that we should already have the vision built out. That way everybody knows creatively what we're doing and we're not making those decisions, taking up space and time for other things. So to break up a lot of the words in the black and white here, I want to include a couple of images to make some connections to what I'm saying. So I've deconstructed a couple of my mood boards from past photo shoots or video shoots, and I've put them here today. The first one is for the Dallas Observer photo shoot for Frankie Leone, who is a local country singer. So first and foremost, for me, I'm very inspired by color and texture. So that is my jumping off point when I'm building a creative concept. That could be different for everyone. You could be inspired by the veins in a leaf. You could be inspired by the way the wind moves through the trees. Inspiration can strike anyone at any moment. For me, it's color and texture. And it's really important for me to set that in the beginning of my conceptualization, because I want the shoot and the overall campaign to be cohesive. And that's how I like to tie all of the elements together. So just more color examples. And then I've got some really lovely, like delicate flowers. I've got the really soft drapes. I've got some really dreamy kind of cotton candy clouds. And here I've got a girl looking through her records in her element, you know, like nobody is watching. And that was the main inspiration for Frankie's photo shoot for the Observer. We really wanted to capture her in her element, undisturbed, kind of like a fly on the wall, just doing her thing. And then I had to include Queen Dolly in this vision board for Frankie, because she is an old soul. She is a country artist, and I really love the femininity of Dolly Parton. We really wanted to bring that along with the pastel colors. We wanted to bring Dolly's inspirations into, or influences into Frankie's shoot. And then I've got a little strip here at the bottom just showing, you know, women in their lounging kind of world, just undisturbed by anyone else. And I really love the image on the far left, because that's just who she is. And we really just wanted to capture Frankie the way that she was. So this is one of probably 6 of the pages that we created for this photo shoot. So as you can see, creative direction is very much creative, but there goes into it. It can't just be all right brain. We've got to have some left brain conversations happening. We have to put logical words to the creative ideas, and make those ideas relatable for the masses, for the audience. And more on the audience a little bit later. But it's all about connectivity. So we want to make sure that the content we're putting out there, that we're connecting, that we're reaching out and impacting people, hopefully in a positive way. Another inspiration for me, along with color palettes, are feelings. I feel like I'm constantly chasing feelings when I create concepts, when I'm building them out. We're also unique, of course. We're complex beings, and feelings are different for everyone. And, you know, a room full of people at Loft Stories will all experience the event differently, hopefully in a positive way. Hopefully everybody walks away loving it and having their own positive feelings, but, you know, they'll have different ways of talking about the event. They'll walk away with different perspectives. And how do we reach everyone in the room in a positive light? And that's through communication. And before you can communicate effectively to your audience, you have to communicate effectively with your team. You have to know who you're working with. You have to build those really healthy, strong working relationships, and know what your people are capable of. Know that when you put a concept together, when you guys sit down to do pre-production, that you're all going to communicate on the same wavelength, and hear each other out. And then through your work, through your project, through the execution of your concepts, you will be able to communicate effectively to your audience. So here is the finished example of my Frankie Leone photo shoot for the Dallas Observer. At the bottom here, I have a few references to show kind of what you're seeing in the overall photo. We've got our records. We've got Frankie kind of being Frankie in her own little world. We've got the floral influences and then the rose colors in her makeup. This ended up being, I think, a 4-page story, and there are a couple of photos that I didn't include here today, but more just rose-colored makeup, more floral influences in the sofa, just kind of lounging and singing. That was the best part of the photo shoot, was just getting a personal concert from Frankie Leone. That was really special. And then the last photo that I've included here is Frankie in the full dolly hair, the really soft makeup, the delicate fabrics of her dress. And then again, that photo that I love of the girl, just Frankie being Frankie. So creative direction for me is all about teamwork, and that means empowerment. That means leading your team to one common goal and effectively communicating, like we said. I also want to make sure that I'm listening, taking all of the input, taking all of the thoughts and the ideas all in. And then you're refining everything that you've taken in, and sometimes honestly saying no. I feel like in the best way possible, I feel like I say no more than I say yes. And that's just because there is, like I said, there's strategy behind this. There is a goal to reach. And sometimes, although it's important to hear all of the many different perspectives, sometimes the ideas just don't fit for that concept. So we put them on a shelf and we'll revisit them for another project. And of course, teamwork is about your talent. So staying in your lane, trusting your DP to be a DP, trusting your wardrobe stylist to be a wardrobe stylist, and not expecting anybody to cross any boundaries or cross any lines. And just trusting. A big part of this is trusting your creative talent and your on-screen talent to do what they are professionals at. And this is kind of where it gets, this is like the least fun for me. And I heavily rely on producers for managing time when I'm not doing it myself. I love a producer. If you're a producer, shout out, kisses, hugs. Thank you so much for your patronage. But you have to know going into a concept, when you're doing your pre-production work, you have to know not only what people are capable of, but you also have to know how long it's going to take what they need to do. Your lighting guys to set up a shot are going to need 30 minutes to an hour to set up lighting. So how efficiently can you work the rest of the concept to be ready to shoot? And they're just, like I said, there's so many aspects on the day. You've got talent for a certain amount of time. You've got your crew for a certain amount of time, or you're racing the natural light if you're shooting by a window. All of that has to be worked out in the pre-production part of this so that you're not fighting it on the day. You already know what you're walking into. Oh, okay, so this is really good. This is a fun one. This is a photo of the Hill in Dallas. It is a mural park with an open air courtyard, and they've got a kind of wooden deck that we used as a stage. And this was a client of ours last year. They really wanted to implement an experience to draw more people to the Hill. It's this kind of like hidden gem at Walnut Hill and 75. And every wall inside that place is painted with a different mural from a local artist. And it's amazing. It's so peaceful and beautiful. And so they wanted to create an experience to draw people in. So obviously, me, live music, let's do it. So we took the inspiration from all of the murals and we created an immersive experience. So before I move on, this giant spray paint can is by a local visual artist named Michael Shellis. And if you haven't heard of him, please look him up, Michael Shellis Creations. But he created this larger than life spray paint can. And we're actually going to wrap the outside of it too. But it was just one way to push the envelope just a little bit further, create more photo ops for guests. And then we also got to work with an amazing company called Lightwear Labs. They're good friends of ours. They're so great at what they do. But if you can see in the background, there's kind of these neon lights, and that is actually projection mapping. So they, with their scientific mathematical brains, mapped around all of the giant trees, and they projected images that moved on the back walls while the performers were on stage. So these two artists are currently living in Nashville. The one on the left, the blonde, is Cersina. The one on the right is Daniela Mason, both fantastic musicians. And just, they were honestly the cherry on top of the entire event. So that is one of many Loft Stories events that we've gotten to host. And this is one of my favorite examples of teamwork, of everybody coming together, knowing the mission on the day, and just making it happen. So before you can start directing the creative, you have to find your voice. You have to know what your platform is. And I would say authenticity versus imitation is something to be mindful of. I will always lean towards authenticity. I think there's a quote about imitation being like a form of flattery, and I just completely disagree with that, because everything we create is a result of our collected experiences through our own lives. So imitating someone else's reflections is not only untrue to our audience, but to ourselves. So how do you find your voice? How do you make sure that what you're creating is authentic? Create. Just make what you make, whether that's drawing, painting, if that's on a tablet in Procreate, if that's writing a song, making music. Just do it. Just put it out in the universe and start making things that create a fire inside of you. That also leads me to experience versus opinion. If you're creating and you're building these concepts for yourself and you're making things that are authentic to you, you are, in a way, you are creating experience for yourself. And in a professional setting, if you work with a brand, if you work with an artist, your experience is going to get you much further than your opinion. And that sounds a little harsh, but let me back up. Opinion, we're all entitled to opinions and they're very important. But if somebody comes to you with a goal or a need, and there is especially money involved, you need to speak from experience and hard-based facts. In a creative way, definitely apply your creativity, but your facts will get you much further than your opinion. So you've found your voice and you know what you want to create. Now you have to determine the who. There are two ways of doing this. The first is through imagery and refining. So that's just you creating to create. That's you just discovering yourself and finding what brings you to life. So create your passions. And through that, your audience will find yourself. I think that we've all discovered this on Instagram. Social media has greatly affected how people find us and how we connect with others. And I think Instagram is a great example of people just putting stuff out there that, you know, creates fire in them, and there you find your followers. And once you've been found, once you and your audience have found each other, create for that audience and stick to that authentic message that got you there. The other way, at first I have an example. So Down in parentheses is an artist called Aaron is Pretty. And I came across him on Instagram. He's a musician, and we're kind of always looking for someone new and, trying to staff shows and things like that. And so he was on a live stream last weekend, and he's being interviewed with someone. And the interviewer asked, "Who is your audience? Who do you make music for?" And Aaron responded, "Me." And the interviewer actually laughed when he responded that way, but I thought that really spoke to me. That is the best answer for me, because Aaron is creating music that he would listen to. He's creating things that are genuine and authentic to what he likes. He's not creating for anyone else, and it's serving him really well. He's popular. He's really good at what he does. He's making great music. And so that is my favorite kind of one to champion on out of the two ways of finding your who, is creating what you believe in. People always want an authentic connection. Number two is for maybe someone who has done the passion projects, has done all of the creative, like fun stuff, and maybe you know that you want to be in advertising and marketing, and you know that you want to create for other people, and you have that gift to just make it happen for others, and that's knowing your client's audience. So if a brand approaches you, like for example, I have some examples coming up from Asiri Tea, which is a loose leaf tea company. Their audience is someone who wants to take the time to be present. They take advantage of moments when they can slow down and kind of pause time and have an experience. Kind of like, when you have the French press coffee, it's a similar concept with the loose leaf tea. So knowing Asiri's audience and then creating for them, you're tailoring the message to their audience. You're applying your experiences in the creative field to make that work for them and to resolve the brand's needs. So your message that you're tailoring for Asiri, that we tailored for the tea brand, is not going to work for what I call the gray and white, like corporate world. It's like very like suits and stuffy and wonderful, and people in that industry serve a really great purpose, and we're so thankful for them. But it's totally different message for the corporate, lenders, as opposed to a mindful kind of slowing down and spending quality time with your community. And on the same token, it's going to be very different than your adrenaline fitness junkie. So know your audience, know who you are trying to reach, and then move forward. So here is another deconstructed mood board for you. This is for Asiri Tea. It was a lifestyle shoot, and we did photos and we did videos and we did how-tos, and oh man, it was a full day at the TX studio actually. But here is the mood board. So the tea was the star of the show, and we really wanted really bright light photos showcasing the superstar. They also have a milk tea, so we really wanted to showcase the beauty and really the artistry of the cream being mixed into the tea. And they also want their audience to slow down and spend time with their community, that this is an event that you can plan around. So there are people playing cards and probably drinking, I think that's rosé or whatever. But the point was to show people gathering and then showcasing personal moments. So here are a couple of stills from the videos that we shot. So we've got your bright light, your tea, your people having quality time together. This is the tea on ice, which is so good. I became like let me pause. So something that I forgot to mention is that, like, in being a creative director, I feel like I become an advocate for brands, I almost become like borderline obsessed with them. So I feel like I can sell you this tea now, but that is the point, because you want to sell the consumer on that product. So if it's something that you're not passionate about, if it's something that doesn't strike a chord with you, like there's a big population of the world that could care less about tea and like slowing down and brewing loose leaf tea and like spending time together. So that's another big part of what I do, is I kind of become a cheerleader for the brand. And that happens in the communication, that happens in really listening to the needs and understanding what the goals are. So here's another still, a lovely like tablescape with all of the little finger foods, and everybody's got their milk tea, and the tea is clearly the center of the gathering and the reason that everybody's come together. And then just small, slow moments shared with one another, slowing down and having your own warm moments. And then the like setup, so the sugar and the cream, the tea, and I'm sure you get the idea by now. So we're trying to capture those special moments, and we're trying to capture a feeling. So next I have two different videos for you. Like I said, we captured a ton of content for this photo shoot. It was all about photos and shareability. So we really wanted to make sure what we were creating could be shared across multiple platforms. So whether that's on their product page on their website, or the welcome page even, if it's on their Facebook or their Instagram, or you know, maybe they want to create a YouTube channel with how-tos. So we wanted to make sure that everything was shareable and that it could reach people across multiple platforms. So this is just a really fun kind of headliner with the cream mixing in, because that's just, we were, like I said, obsessed. And then that kind of loops to create an illusion that it just keeps mixing but never really going away. And then here we created a really cute, short and to the point how-to video. So it's all about that experience. And we really wanted to communicate the slowing down aspect. We really wanted to communicate also just the kind of ritualistic and mindful part of it. But then, you know, something like this, we really need people to know in a short amount of time what the steps are. So again, just following that visual creative and keeping everything cohesive, the typeface, the coloring, and the whole mission of the shoot was all cohesive. And again, I showed you a tiny bit of that mood board for the Asiri shoot. It was a several page document that we don't have time for today, but it's very detailed and it hopefully leaves many questions answered rather than unanswered. So I'm going to take it to the chat and see if anybody has any questions. I just want to take another second to thank you for your time today. Again, my name is Meagan Devon. I am a local creative director, and I've included my information here, my socials, and my email address. If you have any questions about creative direction or about my services, I hope that you'll reach out to me. I love being a brand cheerleader and making those concepts come to life. So I hope to hear from you. So if anybody has any questions, I'm going to stop my screen sharing now and see if I know how to work this thing. Okay. Yay! Oh my gosh, thank you so much for sharing those, the artists and Lightwear. And Aaron, oh my goodness, that's awesome. Thank you guys so much. We love a keynote. Thank you. I was like, this is like very, I'm all about like pictures and warm, fuzzy feelings. And the keynote was like, is this too TED Talk? Ooh, Loft Stories. So sad day, Corona took away our next show. It was supposed to be this Friday. So instead, we're talking with our friends at Sweet Tooth Hotel about a really cool secret thing that I can't share until then. So we'll be going live on the Sweet Tooth Instagram on Friday at 1:30 to talk about some really cool things post-Corona. But if life continues to normal, then the next show after this Friday is scheduled for July 10th. And I hope to see you there. Oh, I have questions. Okay. And you can follow us actually too. It's at Dallas Loft Stories, and we're on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you. Oh, everybody's asking about Loft Stories. Okay, cute. Yeah. So July 10th. And we will hopefully have a lot of other opportunities kind of come up too. Like we're definitely going to be working more with the Hill. So we'll be creating more of those like very bright light shows with like lightware and all of the paintings and everything. So that'll start back up in the fall. Yeah, we have a lot of cool events coming up. On it. Thank you so much. Okay. Okay, so Rocio asked, when you're creative directing and makeup is involved, are you personally doing the makeup or do you hand off to another? It's a very good question. There were a couple of projects where I tried to do one of them, tried to do both of them. A series is one of those projects. And it was very hard because it's just makeup and hair is already two jobs. You're already responsible for two things. And then as the creative director, trying to communicate stuff and, just it's a lot of watching the monitor. It's a lot of, and honestly, we had a pretty small crew on that one. So it was helping set up and break down and move everything around and make sure talent was happy and making sure that the Asiri owners were happy with what they were seeing. And so after that shoot, I was like, I would love to hire someone else to do makeup and hair. It's too much to think about. That's a really good question, though. I feel like it's not fair to the brand necessarily to have the attention split. So I'll actually avoid that as much as possible. Thanks for the question. Is that everything? Ooh. Okay. Can you list off your key crew members you have on set typically? No, I love these questions. That's so good. So key crew members are obviously somebody with a camera, whether that's stills or video, sometimes both. Our director. Oh, I'm getting distracted. Okay. Someone with a camera, director who is working with the talent and pretty closely with the camera person. I love having wardrobe because they are so just great at bringing a character to life and making things realistic but interesting. And I just feel like that's not a role that should be glossed over. You can't always trust talent to bring great clothes. And me as a makeup, I can hardly dress myself. So like, don't trust me to dress somebody else. So always wardrobe. Set, you want to have a set designer. So that's somebody that's just in charge of where the lamp goes and where the flower goes and how it looks on camera and cheating things so that it reads well on screen. Of course, your talent, which I think I already said. That's like skeleton crew for me. So I worked with a local artist named Savannah Lowe. And we did her album cover, her EP artwork. And that one was even smaller. So it was the photographer, it was me, and the wardrobe stylist, and it was all hands on deck. And that's a little chaotic, honestly. We got it done, and it's a beautiful cover, and we're all very happy with it. But it was a little too much for everyone. And then, of course, creative director, because my place on set, even though I'm doing a lot of my work before the photo shoot or before the commercial or the event, even though I'm doing all of my work before the day, on the day, it's really important for me to be there to oversee and coordinate. I'm constantly talking with crew, making sure that they know where everything goes, or like where they need to arrive, where the outlets are. And then it's really important for me, especially when we do shows. My main objective before anything else is making sure that the artists are taken care of. So knowing that the musicians land where they're supposed to land, and that I'm escorting them up to their green room, making sure that they have coffee and water and snacks, making sure they're comfortable. And there's a whole creative that goes into the green room as well. Just an extension of the event, but very comforting for them. So while I'm not making any decisions, I'm definitely supporting. I'm there for crew support. How did you find your own creative voice? Whew, that is so. A little bit about like past way back, Meagan. I grew up in West Texas, in a black hole of a city called Odessa. And I didn't know that I was creative. I just knew that I was different. My entire family, besides my dad, who was a contractor, everybody else, grandmother, aunts, uncles, cousins, everybody was very much like admin jobs, you know, slacks and button ups and payroll and HR and things, and like working for the hospital and stuff. And so I didn't know I was creative for a very long time. It really wasn't until I was about 22 or 23. And that's when I just started just doing things that made me come alive. That's really when makeup picked up for me. And I just started making things that I liked. And I'm still just learning so much about my creative voice. If any of you have been following me on Instagram during this isolation period, you'll know that I've been working my way through a book called The Artist's Way. And I just thought I knew I was creative. And then I started working through The Artist's Way, and it has opened up a whole new vessel inside of me. So I would encourage you, if you feel like you have that desire and you just don't know where to start, it's easy for me to say, just start creating. But if you feel like you have that desire and that just really doesn't make sense to you, just start creating. I would encourage you to find something to work through, some kind of course that helps you move and experiment with things that challenge you. You don't have to do The Artist's Way. There's somebody's shared with me the book Big Magic. I haven't read that, but they said that book helped them in their creative journey. It's going to be different for everyone, but I also find that writing has really helped me. That's something I've learned through The Artist's Way. Is every day I will write 3 pages of stream of consciousness thoughts. There's no goal, there's no agenda, there's no structure. It's literally just what comes to mind. And the more I practice that, the easier it gets to kind of formulate concepts and create more, because you're just kind of getting all of the junk, all of the anxiety, all of the weird dreams. You're getting those down on paper and allowing your mind to open up so that you can create freely and not have all of that kind of, rolling around in the back of your head. So I hope that helps. That's what's helped me. Are there Any prerequisites or training for getting into creative director role? There are, especially if you're going to go to work for a company. In the corporate world, you're going to be working your way up. So, say you're a graphic designer and you then become a junior designer and a senior designer, and then you're a creative director, and it's a ladder that you're going to work up in the corporate world. And it goes back to what I mentioned about experience. I didn't touch on that directly, Sarah, but that's a really good question. It really heavily relies on experience. Going back to my time in beauty and entertainment, I'm really thankful for those years behind the scenes and getting those really unique glances at all of the different areas that we were working in, because it was like I got in the field training that way rather than working for Adobe for 10 or 11 years and then working my way up, you know? So definitely going to work for a company, you're going to have that ladder that you work up, and that's your goal. And it'll look a little bit different for everyone. It won't always be a designer role. You can be a writer. Yeah, there are different positions that you can work your way up from. I hope that made sense. These are such good questions. Thank you guys so much. Yes, thank you, TX. Y'all are so great. Oh, awesome. Okay, good, Sarah. Okay, Brent, you said you snagged them both. Does that mean? Oh, the books. Oh my gosh, you guys are on it. I love it so much. My favorite part of the creative process, that's so hard because it's two. I have two favorite parts. So the pre-production part, when you are sitting down with the artist or the brand and you're just dreaming and things are so big and like out of this world, but it's very exciting. I get a rush from that. I love kind of just like daydreaming without bounds, and then finding really creative ways to make it realistic and to bring it back down to earth, which in Savannah Lowe's case, it really didn't ever come back down to earth. It was very like galaxy themed, and we went really far with it, and it carried into a music video, and it was amazing. And so that's the second part of the creative process that I love, is seeing the finished product. I've cried during every movie I've ever worked on. The first time I see it, I always cry. Like the beginning credits roll and I'm just like like I said, there's something magical about the teamwork aspect of it. And I love being a part of a grand plan, and just seeing everybody's talents come together for one common piece of art. So it's two. I love that question. Yes. Thank you guys so much. Bye. And I'm really thankful that you spent your midday with me. Oh, there's one more question. Do I have time to answer it, TX? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Hilda asked, how do you handle conflict when the client's ideas conflict with creative best practices? Okay, so I'm going to read that again. How do you handle conflict when the client's ideas, conflict with creative best practices? Okay, yeah. So, that is a good question, and it's kind of loaded. First and foremost, you're always going to have in the back of your mind as one of your tools, managing expectations. And that goes both ways. That goes for, helping clients that don't necessarily understand how a process works, helping them to manage their expectations of that. But also, if it's too big or it's just not, I don't want to say ethical. Yeah, but when it's just conflicting and it's not the efficient route to take, it's educating the client and also letting them and yourself know that they have the last word. There is a lot with the hill, the event with the lights and the spray paint can and everything. There was a lot of emailing, a lot of conference calls, a lot of managing those expectations on both ends, honestly, because as the creative director, as somebody who really wanted a stellar event, we just keep dreaming and dreaming and dreaming, but there are budgets and there's a certain number of team members, and so it goes both ways. In particular with your question, I feel like I spun out a little bit. In particular with your question, it's just educating the client. And that's where your experience really comes in. That's why it's so important to have those experiences and those practices before you walk into a pitch, before you walk into working with a brand or an artist, and not just opinions, because you need to have hard facts of, actually. An example is the Hill Show. We had it in the middle of the week. It's really hard to get people, especially on a school night. It was in October, so school was definitely happening. Nobody was on vacation, and they wanted to have it in the middle of the week, and they wanted the event to start at 6:00. And there are a couple of issues with that. The biggest one is traffic. We would have started the show at 6 p.m. and nobody would have been there had we not experienced event production prior to that. So because we know the kind of flow of traffic and the times of when that happens, because of our own shows, because of our own events, we could tell them and share with them, we've actually keep pushing back the start time to our own events because people just aren't making it by 6:30. They weren't making it by 7. So that's just an example of where our hard facts, this is experience that we've already lived through. Now we can apply it to this client's situation and just share with them gently, honestly. I've worked with a couple of teams where they kind of butt heads with the client. And it's just really important. I learned this early on in makeup, and I just try to remember it now, that it's not about me. It's not about what I can create. It's what I can do for them to bring their concepts and their visions to life. And so I really, really try not to have a big ego about it. And when people bring their ego in first, it makes it really uncomfortable. It makes it hard to work with the client. Chris asked, what do you see in your near future? Well, more creative direction, more of this, hopefully in person. That it's I don't think I'm alone in saying it's kind of hard to see past this right now, but my goal during this time of isolation is not only to give myself grace and allow myself to rest when I feel like I need it, and to create also when I feel like I need to create, but it's also to look past this and try to dream and imagine what's on the other side of COVID. And it's definitely more collaboration. It's I have a heart for musicians. Obviously, we have an entire event series structured around musicians. So my goal is to definitely work with them and help them build their brands. There's a hole in the music community with musician branding and their presence and just everything that goes into letting the world know that they exist. So that is a whole separate TED Talk. So hopefully more of that. Dream client to creatively direct in any capacity. Oh my, I've never thought of that before. Okay, dream client to creatively direct. It's it's most definitely a musician. I have so many like pitches that I've never shared with musicians that we work with that I'm just like holding on to them for the right moment. And it's like a whole rebrand. And so definitely dream client is somebody in the music industry, somebody who needs to be revamped. Um, a couple years ago when Beyonce's Lemonade came out, she had an entirely new creative team. She had just fired everyone that had been working with her for 10 years, I think. Somebody correct me if that's wrong, but Lemonade was born out of an entirely new creative team. And so definitely someone like that is like ready for a change and trusts the eye of someone new. I love when people aren't afraid to go for it. That's why I really enjoyed working with Savannah Lowe. She was like, "Here's what I'm thinking. Let's run with it." And so definitely someone that's a little more edgier, is familiar with the arts community, and is probably an artist themselves. Wow. Thank you guys so much. This has almost been an hour, and I really appreciate your time. Please stay in touch with me. I am on Instagram, and it's at MGN So my little logo that was in the corner of the presentation, which you may or may not have access to, I don't remember. But that's my social handle. There it is. Augustina's on it. Yeah. So me and just give me a follow. I love a good conversation. So just let me know if I can answer any other questions outside of this. This has been so wonderful. Thank you again, TX, and thank you to everybody that tuned in and that catches the replay. I really appreciate this. And thank you, Brent. Thank you, Rocio and Hilda. Okay, see you guys.